Hi guys. So, the deep questions have been asked, and we're going to try and work through that from a point of view of what I've experienced over the 2 decades of healing and working with clients and attuning to what I believe is the other worlds. Anyway, probably half of you have gone already, but that's okay, no problem. This is for the people who are interested. And is it important anyway? Well, interesting. It's an interesting question when asked that, but what am I talking about today? Let's just say thank you to Lynn. Lynn sent me a message saying that her parents just witnessed a very bad accident involving a coach, and as they went past the coach, apparently a few people got injured and a few died and the rest survived. The question was just put to me was, is there a kind of set procedure in the world of spirit? Do we go when we're meant to go? Is there a time when we go? Do we go in certain ways? How do we go? Is it an accident? And all of those questions that you might ask about our journey of life. My understanding of all of this went from one scale to another and then somewhere in between. And I'll give you a perfect example. The one story that I always found fascinating was of the English lady who was in a suburb of Delhi, and they were all queuing up for the bus. She was basically not the last one, but one of the last ones to get on the bus. And the bus driver said, "I'm sorry, you're not coming on." And she said, "I beg your pardon?" He said, "I can't allow you on." And she said, "But why? There's still room on the coach, on the bus." And he said, "No, you're not coming on." And she was very confused and she didn't understand. And well, she did as she was told. She stepped back down and then waited an hour for the next bus to come. And sure enough, she got on that bus, no problem at all. And within, I don't know, half an hour, 2 hours, whatever it was, the journey to get to Delhi, they pulled up at the bus station, and there was a kind of like a crowd next to the other bus that had pulled in some while ago. And as she walked over, she asked people, because there was lots of people screaming, and what happened? Well, apparently the bus that she was meant to get onto, somebody had got onto that bus and killed all the white people on that bus. Now, if you think about that for a moment, most of us would have pushed our way onto that bus when the bus driver said, "You're not coming on." Most of us, be honest, most of us would have been screaming and shouting, saying we wanted to get on. Now, I think there's something in this. This is only part of a bigger picture, but I think there's something in this. And the reason why I have spoken to you more as of late about the flow of life is because of that reason. And what I realized is there is a kind of momentary energy that the spirit world is recognizing, that if we don't go on the flow, if we don't flow and we get caught up in an energy that is not meant to be our energy, which we may consider to be frustration, why me, the rejections, all of those things where we get angry and we fight our way onto that bus or doing whatever we're doing. There's something in that is not meant for our energy. We're not meant to be flowing. We're not meant to be pushing. We're not in that sense. So when the lady stepped back and let that moment pass, then she was free from that danger. So this is just one way of my thought process. The other way was, a client came to me and I read for him, and I said, I can see your son, and there was a bang. So I said, your son is in spirit, and it was fast. I think it was a motorbike or something like that. And I said, he's apologizing and saying he's sorry. He made a mistake. So I think what he was trying to tell me is he was going too fast. So should he have died at that moment? Well, we have free will. So if I now drink some poison, is that my moment to go? Or is that my free will to take that poison knowing I shouldn't be taking it because it's there in front of me? Meaning, should I put my foot down on the accelerator and drive at 160 mile an hour or drive at 50 mile an hour? The chances are I'm going to survive at 50 mile an hour. But if I force my foot into the bus, so to speak, if I force this, that I want to do something and push and be there faster, then you go out of what I call this spiritual flow, this divine flow that we are all on. And it's all individual to us. So our mistakes happen? I believe they do, because of that particular story, that when I finished the reading, the father said, yes, he was in a car accident. I think it was a car accident, and it was going too fast, and he passed away. So I realized then there are mistakes, and those mistakes aren't really mistakes. They're just moments of a choice that we are in either stress, we need to feel, we need to be somewhere, we need to do something, we're down, we're sad, we put a rope round our neck, we might hurt ourselves because of certain reasons that we are living in a world that should not be like this. So I believe that if we had a world of balance and harmony, if we had a world of living and understanding how to teach, share, guide people, then first of all, time would have no essence, which means that when we sit and talk about something, then that conversation will be an in-depth conversation rather than ABC, 1, 2, 3, 1 plus 1 is 2. So all that does is make us out of sync. It creates something that is not really spiritually you. And thus we go into a part of the body, physical, which shouldn't be used for what it's being used to today. And when you go into a part of the body system that's being overused, it's like putting your foot down on a car accelerator and the car's jacked up and the wheels are just spinning, and then eventually the engine will blow. Most of us right now are living in fear. When you're living in fear, fear is connected to the brain, because what you see and process in your mind, and that mind, if it can't understand something, it then continually tries to work things out. It's very difficult to work out something that's invisible, that's been told to you you're going to die every few minutes. But if you touch somebody, if you speak to somebody, if you hug somebody, you're going to die. So your mind is constantly on this sentence that it's writing with no full stop. So it's a continuous. So most of us live in the brain. Now, the brain was only really made for a few things. That's getting up in the morning, putting our clothes on, doing what we would normally do, going outside, crossing the road, looking left and right. Well done, brain's working fine, and so on. But the brain was never, ever given to us to understand our spiritual path and journey and who we are. We go inside for that. And when I say inside, I don't mean inside the brain, I mean inside the spirit, the soul, our heart, which is connection to who we truly are and why we're here and what our purpose is. So when we're in the brain, there's no purpose, there's no understanding, there's no full stop. It's just a continual rollerball or a snowball effect of absolute insanity, and can send you crazy and can give you Alzheimer's, can give you all sorts of diseases and illnesses because of fear. So we've truly moved away from real purpose, life, and our journey and who we are, what we are, and how we were meant to be as a spiritual soul in a physical body. Whereas now it's you're in a physical body, full stop. There is no soul, there is no understanding, there is no intuition, there is no psychic, there is no magic. And that was purposely done because as soon as you can eradicate, eliminate, sever that connection to your higher self by ways and means of poisoning water, poisoning food, poisoning mainstream media, poisoning everything that you've been taught, then it's easy to look at a child and see that they carry the world on their shoulders. Look at a mother and see the burden she carries. Look at the father and see the stress that he has every day. So we have created a world of stress, fear, and a severe cut of our true self, which isn't the physical, because your body is not you. Your name is not you. Your actions is not you. The real you is inside, and that's the spirit. And around you is the real you, called the energy, aura, life force, chi, prana. That is who you are, because when you die, that's no longer there. So it makes sense to say, well, they're dead now, so that body is useless. Throw it away, burn it. But where's that life force gone? Where's that spirit gone? Where's that soul gone? Well, it doesn't die, guys. So it leads me on to the next part of this workshop today. The spirit, the soul, never dies. So in actual fact, all of the worries and the fears that we have about why we're here, should we be here, is there an accident, isn't there an accident, do we go at a certain point, how do we go, it doesn't matter, because there is no space and time. In the spirit world, one blink of your eyes could be 20 years to our 20 years to their one blink. So there's no space and time. So that makes no odds. So us rushing around is just the physical rushing around. That's it. It's actually meaningless. But we can see it certainly causes stress and illness and a quick death. So all you need to do is look at the real creatures that live the longest. Look at them. Look at the tortoise. How fast does it go? How fast does it eat? How fast does it do anything? Oh, well, I don't want to do that. I've got to get on with it. I've got to be busy. I've got to do this, got to do that. Yeah, okay. Who said you have to do that? Who said you have to be busy? Oh, that's right, the system. The system that tells you that, you know, that the system now employs you and says come in at 9 o'clock and finish at 5 o'clock and you must do this and you must do that and you've got a deadline. Beep, beep, deadline. Boop, deadline. Deadline, deadline. Feeding you a deadline. Feeding you illness. Feeding you worry. Feeding you 2 weeks of holiday and then you're back to it again. And this rush. You're not good enough. You're not fast enough. You're not good enough. You're not fast enough. You see, can you? Have you got it yet? Do you understand you've been programmed? Oh yes. Every day, every minute, every moment, every day since you were born, you were programmed by the darkness. The darkness is the cleverest thing in the world because the darkness knows how to keep you in low vibration. But there are moments in life that the spirit world nudges us, just gives us a little helping hand and just shakes us up a bit. Okay, there's something in this. Because I thought it was just chasing my tail and getting 2 weeks off a holiday a year. Actually, there could be more. And you're right, there is a lot more. But they won't tell you that. They won't share the magic. They won't share the real you. Because by sharing the real you and telling you who you truly are and what real medication is and what real health is, by doing that, you then start to feel inside, you start to attune to your higher self, and you realize that everything out there is one big slavery, lie, and manipulation. And when you come inside here, you realize that you're actually free inside, and you breathe and you clear your illness. You go outside again and you're back to being ill and sick and taking your medication from the pharmaceutical industry that makes trillions of dollars of killing. The third most biggest killer in the world. Simple as that. Truth. If that gets taken off, then there again, more truth. Stopping the truth. Let's have a drink. It's a workshop today. Okay, so is there a moment that that spirit world or a higher force says you're coming back home now, or it's your time? Well, the spirit world doesn't see any time. There is no time. The spirit world doesn't interfere in the sense of taking you back because you're needed. They can sometimes nudge us in the right direction to help us. So there's been many times that I've listened to my higher intuition and not done something and realized I could have been killed. There are times where spirit intervenes and tries to help us and save us. Again, there isn't a set pattern to any of this. There isn't a yes or a no, because everybody's looking for one answer. And that one answer is exactly why I made a video prior to this and talked about an apple. Because what you see as an apple is just an apple or just a fruit. When actual fact, the real truth about the apple and the fruit is far more greater than the word apple or fruit. You see, you're only taught 1% of what really life is. So we all want and we all expect an answer to everything. And we are all fighting for one answer that we feel is the right answer, so we defend it. And that is not your fault. It's because you've been programmed. Because right from a child, right till now, everything that you've been told is, okay, children, what is 1 + 1? It's 2. Okay, children, what colour is the sea? Blue. Hang on, let's stop right there, Mr. School Teacher. Let's go and take the sea in our hand, pick it up. Miss, this doesn't look blue. Looks the colour of my hands now. In fact, if I put it into a red jar, it looks red. In fact, if you put it into a clear jar, it looks clear. But it looks furthest from blue. Oh, stop it. It's blue, and that's all you need to know. You see, we've been taught the minimum, and we've been taught the lowest form of truth. And it seems to be so tangible in its dumbness that you can see how we've grown up to be dumb. Some of us looked outside of that box and that label and said, no, I see something different. I see life different. I see fruit different. I see love different. I see hate different. I see telling people what to do different. I see life different. And we are the ones who wouldn't comply. We wouldn't be controlled. We couldn't be brainwashed. We couldn't be manipulated. And that's a very small number. You might be one of those. But ultimately, we've all been brainwashed, hoodwinked, hijacked at some point to believe something. And mainly anyway, forget that. Let's go back onto the spirit world. So the spirit world, I had a belief system that, and it's still very strong, and that belief system is that when we decide to come into this world, we choose to come into this world because it's the only world that gives us a physical reality through our body being an energy that we can feel. The spirit world is not an energy that you can actually feel. It's vastness, it's everything, but it isn't this tangible touch and feel energy. So if you imagine the body is like a computer or is like a spacesuit and is like something that can feel that the spirit world doesn't feel. It's a different feeling. It's a different energy feeling. And in that feeling, because we're in the physical, our reactions will show us how we are as a spirit to that reaction. So I guess what I'm saying is that when we come into this world, a lot of the times we come to feel the reaction, to understand what that feeling is and how we attuned and what we did, what our reactions was. And we can then look at our life and say, okay, we did this, I tried that, I went through that, this person did this to me, I got cancer, I got this sickness, I did that, and we look at ourselves and say, okay, because the experience is the most important thing. But then there is a point where you say, could I have done better? Should I have seen? Well, the question then lies, well, if I would have seen it, then I wouldn't have experienced it, because if I'd have known that if I was eating poisons that I would get cancer, then I wouldn't do it. Therefore, I wouldn't be able to experience what I was meant to experience. Therefore, was that experience made so that I had to eat all of that junk, non-foods, poisons, put things into my arm to become sick for the rest of my life or feel what I needed to feel? Was that part of the experience? Was that experience of getting smashed in a car accident, losing my leg? Or was that part of the experience of not being able to walk again that I now have to, for the rest of my life, depend on somebody to help me? Could it have been that prior to that I was stubborn, I didn't want anybody to help me, I didn't believe in anybody help me, I didn't want anybody to help me in my brain, but my spirit wanted to experience the love of somebody showing me that love for the rest of my life. So is that experience more important than the physical? Well, I believe so, because I believe the physical body is important, is very important, because we treat it well, because it helps our spirit along that journey, but it isn't the most important thing. I think the most important thing is the experience of what we're going through and how we react in that experience, how we walk through that challenge. So you see how deep it becomes? Everybody wants a simple answer. There isn't a simple answer, because each individual person chooses, I believe, their life path, and they're given moments that they have a choice of losing the balance or keeping the balance. So does it make you perfect if you've gone through life and not suffered anything? No, actually, you haven't learned anything really. What you've learned is how to flow and feel that energy, and that's wonderful. So that's what you've learned. In the fact that I've said you've learned nothing, that doesn't, to me, my nothing means that happiness is actually nothing, because you don't really learn anything. My pain is what I've learned from. So to me, the more I go through pain now, the more I'm learning, and the more I realize I'm growing. Because in a spiritual sense, what I used to do is read for a lot of clients who family members came through, and sometimes the family members came through at a really high level or a really dense level, and I realized that the really high level of vibration was spirit who've experienced so much in this world, whether it's cancer, whether it's abuse, whatever it is, that their level was really high. And that's why I used to say to people who came to me who were so upset because they may have been raped, they may have been abused in different ways, they may have bad things happen to them, and I say, well, you know, I know this is the worst thing that you're going through, but if you keep going, one day you will understand why all this happened. And the reason why is because anytime I used to feel spirit come through and share their story of what they went through and their pain and suffering, their level of energy was, I counted it on a scale of 12. I don't know why. And I'd say, like, my mum came through and she vibrated at a really high level. My dad came through and vibrated at a very low level. So I realized that my dad didn't really experience it and fix it. He went through pain and suffering and killed a lot of people because he was a second lieutenant in a tank blowing people up. But the experience thereafter of how he healed and how he strengthened and how he became more loving and kind and understanding didn't happen. So he stayed in that low level energy, which means he has to come back and experience it again, in my understanding. My mum went through a lot of pain, suffering every day of her life, but she rose above that. And even on her deathbed, when dying of cancer at 45, she still smiled, she still loved, she still cared, she still cried, and she was still amazing. And then she moves into the light because she experienced it, and she can look at what she'd been through and said, I did my best. Whereas my dad knew he couldn't say he did his best because he abused us. He was abusive. He was all lots of really bad things, you know. But there was still love in my dad somewhere. He once kissed me on my head when I was asleep, and I thought, there is love. I was crying when he left. I was crying my eyes out. I said, there is love in there. There's still love in there. But it wasn't. The spirit kissed me, not the brain. Not the brain, the spirit. Whatever happened at that moment, he kissed me on my head. He kissed me because his spirit, his soul kissed me. And I felt it. And I knew my dad is beautiful. So when they come through in a spiritual sense, you can feel their vibration, because I think they want to improve. They want to improve the experience of this world. So I believe a lot of them come back. A lot of us come back to experiencing it again and say, okay, this time I did my best. I did a good job there, right? That's my feeling. Now, you could argue to me all day long and say it's nonsense, it's rubbish, but this is my experience. I don't care whether you believe it or not. I know what I care, and I care about my truth and my experience and what I know is right and wrong. And I know one thing: whenever I'm sad, whenever I'm angry, whenever I'm upset, whenever I'm kicking and screaming, whenever I'm reacting and knee-jerking, things bad happen. Always. Something goes wrong, or things don't go right. Things just snowball and get worse, and I end up either hurting myself or hurting others. There's a clue in there somewhere. So maybe the people on that bus, maybe deep down they knew not to go on that bus. Maybe deep down they were pushing to get on that bus, even though Spirit was trying to help them, slow them down. Could it be the driver, or another driver coming towards them just did something that he knew he shouldn't have done and caused a chain reaction? Well, yeah, of course that's a possibility. If I hit you, then I'm going to upset you and hurt you. So was that meant? Did I mean to do it? No, probably not. But I did it because I was in my mental instead of my spirit. Therefore, we go back to the spirit, and if we can nurture the spirit in children and make them use their spirit as their first call of truth rather than a brain, like the system creates you to think first, which is wrong. The spirit feels first. I don't feel I should do that. Why do it? Oh God, I did it. I knew I shouldn't have done it. See, there's clues in all of this. There's clues if you just embrace it and then say, okay, I'm not thinking anymore unless I'm crossing the roads, looking left and right. I'm just going to flow. And if I feel it's not right, I'm going to trust that. You'll find that you'll live a lot happier life and stronger, and not as many accidents, not as many problems, and not as many painful issues. No, I don't think I should eat that. Well, why? Oh no, I'll eat it. Okay, I knew I shouldn't have eaten that. Now look at me. Now look at what I've done. Oh, I knew I shouldn't have gone there. I knew I should have just laid down and drunk water and just let it clear out my system. But no, I went and had an injection. Now look at me. My lips are big. My face is all blown out. Why? Because I've got toxins in my body. I've got poisons in my body when I should have just laid down and just done it naturally. You see? You already know. There's millions, if not billions, of people already know what they shouldn't have done right now. And that causes chaos in the world. That causes fear and worry. Causes negativity, causes low vibration. If we just listened in here first and followed that instead of this, you would find that the world would change in 2 decades. We don't die. This cloth that we wear, this skin that we have, the bones and the blood are just there to help our spirit move through this world, to experience what the 7 senses are. But your spirit is who you are. You're not Peter, you're not Jane, you're not John. You're not the body that you've got with maybe a stomach illness or a pain somewhere in your body or mental illness. That's not who you are. That's the experience. Who you are is inside. When you sleep, you travel and you heal people and you help people like I did last night, like you did. That's who you are. The spirit is who you are. The spirit has no name because the spirit needs no name. Because the spirit doesn't limit itself by a name. It is everything and more, and everlasting, and never dies. And it's so difficult for people to get that, because we live on an earthly world where a plant dies and then is reborn again and comes back to life, and the trees die, and this dies, everything dies, we all die, and fear, 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 fear. No, the tree doesn't die. The tree is just replanted. You don't die, you're just replanted. And so this energy continues, and we come through in a spiritual sense. There's so many aspects to this topic, it's unreal. Are we taken too soon? What is too soon if there's no such thing as space and time in the spirit world? Am I a bad person if I've done something to somebody. There's been many a times that I felt your family member in spirit say to me, I'm so sorry what we did. I'm sorry what you went through, but you will understand when you move back home. What does that mean? In the first 2 years, what does this mean? I'm asking spirit, what does this mean? And I'd never understood. I was never given that much information, and it bothered me. I wanted to know. I need to know. 1 + 1 is 2. Tell me. I need to know. Until the day that my mentor, who treated me so bad, who did such terrible things to me that I haven't really spoken about too much, just told you a few things, but she did some terrible things. When she went back into the spirit world, I knew she'd moved back into the spirit world. And I closed my eyes and I saw her, and we ran to each other from spirit to spirit and held each other. And I said to her, thank you for doing what I asked. And it was a tough one to get. Like, did I really ask for her to do that? And I sat for a few weeks, if not months, and pondered on it, and then realized, you know what, Mark? If I really come into this world to experience certain things, and they were going to be really awful things, to challenge me to see if I can cope with that and how I dealt with it, wouldn't it make sense that my worst enemy would be my best friend in the spirit world? I mean, if I'm in the spirit world and I want to go and experience some terrible things, I'm going to say to my best friend, will you come and help me with this? Because at the moment you move back home, then you'll understand, because, oh my God, thank you. It's done. And my experience, not through books, not through other people's teachings, but through what I've been through, is my guidance and what I understand is truth. But one thing ultimately that I know about all of this, I have done this for 2 decades. I've read, as you mostly know, for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and tens of thousands of people. And even now I'm healing hundreds and hundreds of people. What I've learned right now, what tonight I'm doing at 8 o'clock, which is a healing session on hundreds of people, I know one thing out of all of this. The more I learn, the more I know nothing. And I believe with my whole heart, I haven't even tapped into 1% of what we know about the spirit world and about what happens in this world. And that keeps me going every day to have an open mind and to see if I can correct, if I can clear and reboot and become a better version to understand my life journey, thus helping other people along their journey. But the one thing that always keeps me in strength is that the soul, you, not your body or your name or your mouth, you, as that soul that I speak to now, is endless and never dies. That's why I'm not frightened of death, because there is no such thing as death. There's only a body that disappears and goes back into earth to feed the cycle of life. But my spirit can come back anytime. In fact, I'm looking forward to going home and having a rest for a while. But knowing me, I'll be back again. Fighting the truth. Fighting for the good, the kindness, the love, the sharing, the giving that so often we forget who we are and why we're here. Because a system that is so dark and so deceitful knows how to kill the spirit of man through the brain. Have a great day, guys. Till tonight, 8 o'clock Spain time, I hope to see you all for 1 hour pure energy healing with me. All you need to do is bring yourself along. A few crystals, some oils. Just sit down or lay down and click on to Mark Bajerski Live YouTube and let me give you a healing session. From my heart to yours, have a beautiful day. Love you all.